This is Braxcast time once again, and we've got the 90th episode of the Braxcast. So it's a Thanksgiving weekend, so I'm not going to be able to do covering the fulfillment of Horseman and Norfrica. That'll be next week. So in lieu of that, we're going to do a tier list for basically all of the Horseman in Norfrica covers. So basically, or at least Horseman number 2 and Norfrica number 1 as of the time of this filming. We're going to go do these tier lists because these books are the ones that are in fulfillment. And then I'll get to next week actually talking about and really diving into them. And then I think closing out the year, going over the concept art book and stuff like that as well for Norfrica. So we're going to have that relevant content. Those reviews are going to be coming up. But unfortunately for this week, this is what's going to have to hold you guys over. But I'm sure it will be fun. We also love doing these cover tier lists. So we're going to start with Norfrica cover A. I do think this is a solid A tier right here. I definitely love this one. I believe this is done by Ronaldson Friere, the artist for artist for the cover. Either that or Kane and White. Can't exactly remember. Next, we've got the B cover here. I'm going to say this is a B tier. It's a shot of a character that we don't know yet. I haven't read Norfrica. Of course, some of you guys that have read Norfrica probably know who this character is, but I'm going to place it in the B tier. Not that it's a bad cover, just I don't know the character. And I think we're going to put this babe, this is the C cover right here, into the S tier because you gotta love leaning into that feminine energy right there. And then we're going to go for the D cover here. I think I'm going to go C tier on that. So I think this is the definitive tier list for Norfrica. Of course, Norfrica number 1 is going to be delving into the story of Valadon, covering the Jotunheimel, if I'm getting that correctly. So it's going to be focusing on Valadon's story, that Norse mythology. Maybe we'll even see Gorm, not maybe in the first issue, but maybe in those latter issues as well. But I'm really interested in getting into Takari's story because Eric July has talked about African mythology and how that's very underutilized in modern entertainment, and Takari is really the answer to that. So I'm interested to see what he has in store. Of course, I imagine it's going to be alluded to in the first issue, but I would say, based on the synopsis of the first issue, the log line of the first issue, and that campaign or collection, I ought to say, this is going to be focusing more on Valadon, his origins, and his story. And this is also probably going to be establishing the Norfrica band and going on their tour and stuff like that. I love the idea of these guys having like groupies that follow them around. I mean, they're 2 7-foot-tall gods. Of course, they're going to have groupies and stuff like that. I think that's something that it really needs to be explored as well. So I think there's only going to be so much they're going to be able to do in these 56 pages or so that this first issue is going to cover. And I believe it's going to be about 4 issues. So hopefully we get more than that because there's just so much stuff that, thinking about it, and I'm sure if you guys have read it, that can be explored with Norfrica, that hopefully after these 4 issues go, there's more Norfrica. There's like another Norfrica arc that Eric July can focus on. But we're going to move on from the Norfrica Glorious Death into Horseman number 2. And of course, I'm going to go and place Horseman cover A in that A tier right there. This is the retro cover. I love the retro covers, so we're going to place that in S tier, probably just behind there. We're going to put the this Horseman number 2 in the top of the A tier. This is, of course, I believe, I'm not sure if it's, I don't think it's Blitz or Sturm. I can't ever get their names correct, but I think Blitz is the female, and she's a blonde hair babe. Then, of course, we've got Cal Buxton, and I think we're going to put him in B tier, right there, if I can get that correct. And that's my definitive tier list if we're going to take these 2 books and cover them. Now, of course, giving a little bit of commentary on Horseman number 2. This is, of course, continuing the story from the ongoing series that was started in the first issue of the Horseman. Horseman number 1. It was really establishing a lot, dealing with the fallout of Hector's escapades in Walk in the Flores Park. That was a really intense 96-pager that put Horseman in a good spot to start an ongoing series. And the first one, Chuck is basically just doing all that foundational work, so that way number 2 can really hit the ground running. And of course, with that epic cliffhanger, with that battle with the cartel, it really gives the reader a lot to want to dive into, which is probably why of these 2 books, I'm a bit more excited for Horseman, because I've got I really need to know what happens next. I remember just slamming the book down on the table and I just need to know what happens next. And that's what you love to have when you read comics, is that that feeling of I gotta know what happens next. That's how you know you got a great story on your hands. And of course, when you got Chuck Dixon writing, that's definitely going to be the case. But no, this is a bit of a shorter episode, guys. Definitely am a bit sorry about that, but it's just the necessity of the lack of stuff I have when I'm filming this, and also this all happening in tandem with the Thanksgiving break. So hopefully you guys have a good Thanksgiving, have a good time, and I will be back in December with much more substantial content for you guys. We'll be back to live streaming, having all that fun as I usually do with you guys. But hopefully you guys enjoy this one still. Joker is out. Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.